Welcome, everybody. You are in episode 206. Are you communicating enough? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. I'm stoked for the possibilities ahead of us this week, for the way that our industry can head, and for the things that we're able to do. I apologize that this podcast was late this morning getting out. I'm not a victim, but I did get in super late last night from Baltimore, and now I'm heading out to Salt Lake City. So I figured I need to listen to my podcast advice about getting enough sleep. So I got enough sleep last night instead of staying up super late. And so I'm asking for your forgiveness, and I appreciate that. So we'll have great podcast the rest of the week as we go along. I actually changed the topic today. And so I'm I was even going to get it out earlier this morning once I woke up, but I've been doing some other research here and I changed the podcast topic. So it's been on my mind. Anyway, again, I'm stoked. I'm interested in you guys. I love the feedback that I'm getting. I like the feedback specifically about the book. We have some more here. I was thinking last night on the plane, I'm interested in your dreams. I would love to hear from people. And if you will allow me, I'll share it on the podcast about where you're headed, what you're doing, what are your dreams in the construction industry. And I would also like to receive some emails or some messages about that and take part in it and make some, responses or some thoughts or throw some help your way or even just a second set of eyes. So if you want somebody to listen to you and your dreams and encourage you, email me at jason@elevateconstructionist.com. I would also love to share those with other people on the podcast. I think it really helps when everyone kind of goes there together and we share our experiences. So let's move on today. So I wanted to share a quick little thing. I got a text from a potential client, really good guy, really good company, and he sent me his bookshelf. They buy stock books of some of the best books. Oh, I just said that. That's a plug. But anyway, buys stock books for his organization. I'm looking at the shelf right now. There's American Icon in here. Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0, the Lean Builder, the Culture Code, which, wow, the Culture Code is just a fantastic book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Off the Clock, and he has Elevating Construction Superintendents in there as well. So I think there's about like 20 blank copies there. And I now see that it's smaller than most of the other books on the shelf, which means the print's probably too small. Anyway, so I just wanted to say this was really neat. That got me to thinking, one of the benefits from Super Bootcamp or Field Engineer Bootcamp or any of these is that these builders really get used to reading. And I'll leave a boot camp and then, meet up with them 5, 6, 8 months later for their certification to verify everything that they've implemented on the job. And one of the biggest bits of feedback is they're like, yeah, I've read 5 more books, from the book list from leadership. And they're just learning and growing, and they're triggered mentally. They're addicted now to listening to this good content. Some of these best books, some of the best authors and stories. And I just think that that's one of the best consequences rather from immersive training is their love of learning. If somebody can't leave with a love of learning, then I think that we've failed as teachers or as mentors or as instructors. So I wanted to share that with you. I really am just honored that book can be in that bookshelf, and that people are using it. Like I said, getting lots of feedback. There was something that came up to me yesterday, meaning in my mind, that was too good to not share again. But I don't want to make it its own podcast because we have so many topics ahead of us. So it was tips for observing team meetings. And this was a tool that I got on the Kappa Pro website from Patrick Lencioni's Kappa Pro interface. And it's called Tips for Observing Team Meetings. And so I wanted to share it with you all. I will put this into a blog post with the show notes if you want it. That'll take a couple of days. So if you want it sooner, please let me know. And without further ado, here they are. Number one, and this is when you're observing a meeting or a team meeting specifically, because team meetings have to be high functioning if the team is going to be successful. Number one, what are the dynamics amongst the team members going into the meeting? Meaning, what are the dynamics as they head in there? Are they personal and friendly or all business? Number two, does the team appear to be cohesive? Or does it seem like a working group that comes together to simply report out? Number three, does the leader kick off the meeting with a hook, something that's interesting that gets everybody engaged that day? Number four, what is the level of engagement from team members during the meeting? Number five, are team members speaking about other departments aside from their own? Number six, how is the team showing up relative to the 5 dysfunctions? Number seven, how are they picking up meeting topics? Does there seem to be a process in place for choosing topics of discussion? Number eight, does the leader drive for closure in discussions? Number nine, well, let's go back to that other meaning. Does somebody bring something up and it just dies, meaning it doesn't go anywhere and nobody gets resolution, they just ignore it? Or does the leader wait, pause, and get that, push for that feedback, that closure? Number nine, do people leave with clear calls for action, or do people just get up from the meeting and leave? Number 10, has the team discussed how they will communicate key decisions and critical messages from the meeting to others in the organization? And so I thought this was so helpful. I've always wanted a list to observe meetings. As leaders, we do need to observe meetings and make sure that we're having remarkable meetings because, again, a leader builds the leadership team first, the project team first, has hard conversations, manages direct reports, mentors and coaches them, make sure that we are having remarkable project meetings, and scales communication. So if a leader isn't doing that, they're not doing their job. So I wanted to pass along this 10-step process for observing team meetings. So let's go on to some of the other things in the podcast here. What am I excited about in life? I'm excited about a blog post and a webinar that I just submitted. I'm hoping to be able to talk more and more about how to elevate superintendents here in the future and Takt planning. So right now, in fact, my son and my wife are fighting over a computer right now because my wife is editing the fable in the book, the final story. She's really good at that narrative. We're scheduling the audio recording, and so they're kind of fighting over the computer there. So that Takt planning book will be out for a future blog post and then a webinar that we're going to do on March 31st through the Lean Construction blog, which I'm super excited about. So these kinds of opportunities are fantastic. I just love the ability to network and be with good people. So I want to talk about some feedback that we're getting. And this is from a senior superintendent. I just got this last night. This is what he said. Jason Schroeder, I finished listening to Elevating Construction Superintendents, narrated by Katie Schroeder on my Audible app. First time around was great, but the second time was awesome. I've got a metric ton of notes mapped to tangible examples. Bravo, Jason. This is good stuff. Not sure if you're a Matrix fan, but I would think this book should come with a disclaimer for those who can't handle the truth. Hashtag blue pill. And pat on the back. But if you're a superintendent seeking real truth, facts, and want to lead in making a difference, changing the paradigm, look no further. Katie, I really enjoyed the clear, consistent delivery, great dynamic control. I wish other audiobooks were as tentative and mindful of this quality as some give me listening fatigue. This book is golden, but don't take my word. Go get it. Try Audible and get it free. So I sent a long reply to this one because it was so nice, so kind. And I also really like the comment in there for Katie, who spent a lot of time narrating it and wanting to deliver a really remarkable experience for everybody. So that's my intro today for the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to give you a quote here, and I got this from Rapport. but I really enjoyed it, and I want to share it with you now. You can do anything with enthusiasm. You can do anything if you have enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the yeast that makes your hopes rise to the stars. Enthusiasm is the sparkle in your eye. It is the swing in your gait, the grip of your hand, the irresistible surge of your will and your energy to execute your ideas. Enthusiasm. Enthusiasts are fighters. They have fortitude. They have staying qualities. Enthusiasm is at the bottom of all progress. With it, there is accomplishment. Without it, there are only alibis. And that's Henry Ford's fireplace motto. So I really enjoy that because enthusiasm is what it takes for us to communicate well and to communicate effectively. I was thinking the other day, and I almost did a podcast in and of itself about low energy leaders. In fact, I've been meeting with, and this is a tip for you if you ever go into business. Are you talking to the gatekeepers or are you talking to decision makers? Most of the time, I've found that if somebody in a company isn't super interested or has time or realizes the value of something or talking to somebody, they'll send a gatekeeper. And usually that gatekeeper is a pretty low energy, boring human being. Like, that sounds insulting, and it is. And I mean it that way. The other day, I was attempting to get in with a really good company, meaning to go in and learn more about them. You know, I always talk about DPR construction, the builder experiences that I got at Hensel Phelps, and I just love great companies, right? And and DPR is one of my favorite. They have a great culture. So this company, I was going in to check them out, see if I could add value, learn from them, because I want to be able to move that stuff forward in podcasts and in other ways and books and things like that. And the owner basically pushed me off to what I call a gatekeeper, somebody else, and said, hey, meet with this person first. I went in there and it was the most low energy, boring, non-paying attention experience that I've ever been to. And it put me in a funk. No. I chose to be in a funk the rest of the day because it was that horrible. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that, does this company really employ people like this? If so, I'm not even sure I want to be a part of this organization. Now, that sounds super judgy and doesn't look very good on me. And so be it, because that's actually how I felt. And so I was like, most of the time I really go the extra mile to continue to reach out, to follow up, to add value. And I'm like, I just don't know that this is that worth it. Like, I don't like the thought of a company that would first dispatch gatekeepers in the first place, but also ones that would employ low energy people like this with no enthusiasm, no passion, and they are dealing with things. And I saw him do this, dealing with people problems like, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out. Just like with no passion, no enthusiasm. Anyway, this sounds like a judgy rant, and it is. But I just wanted to say, enthusiasm is the key to making everything work. I'll say it again. You can do anything if you have enthusiasm. It's the yeast that makes your hopes rise to the stars. It's the sparkle in your eye, the swing in your gait, the grip of your hand, the irresistible surge of your will and your energy to execute your ideas. Enthusiasts are fighters. They have fortitude. They have staying qualities. Enthusiasm is at the bottom of all progress. With it, there is accomplishment. Without it, there are only alibis. And so I just want to say that I've experienced this over and over and over and over again. I've never seen somebody without enthusiasm, with poor energy, that was successful at anything. And in fact, I told you about a project engineer one time that was lecturing me about, I don't need to show up high energy. I know what I'm worth, and I'll make it as far as I need to go. And this person had been a project engineer, which isn't entirely bad, but he wanted to be something different. But what had been a project engineer for the better part of a decade, and I'm like, dude, like, you don't know what you're talking about. If you would add a little bit of energy, a little bit of care, a little bit of a little bit of enthusiasm, you would head in a great direction and go far. As it is, you're being stubborn and your low energy is sucking the energy out of you and everyone else. So the reason that I opened up with that little piece about enthusiasm is because today we're going to talk about communication. So communication is huge. And here's your conflict. You're not communicating enough. I want to tell you a quick story or a flashback to the past. When I was a project superintendent at DPR, I got my hands on the book, The Advantage. And this is by Patrick Lencioni, and he talks about scaling clarity, scaling communication. And that book is fantastic when it comes to identifying what's most important in an organization, leading teams, building the team first, creating clarity, communicating clarity, and then scaling clarity through human systems. And so it's a wonderful book, and it really probably ties mostly to business. But he talks in there about how great leaders, it's their job to scale communication, to scale clarity, and to do it over and over and over and over and over again. And so I immediately went from this position of knowing and leading and guiding and pointing to, oh my gosh, my job is to communicate. And so everything that was coming up, the long-term schedule, the intermediate schedules, the short interval schedules, what the owner wanted, why we did things, I went into full-blown communication mode as a leader, and everything changed from there. I would even send little audio messages to the team about why we were doing things. It was basically the start of a podcast. And I was like, what would be a better way for me to get these bits of information out? And that was the genesis of the podcast. And so I just want to say that when I switched from a superintendent that did a lot of things to a superintendent that communicated mostly as a part of his job, that's when things changed. And it reminds me of this really, and I'm going to say the word stupid IPD post I heard a while back. And it was an architect talking against big rooms. And he was like, big rooms don't work. It slows everybody down. It kills productivity. And then at the end, he condescendingly said, I hope this puts the nail in the coffin about big rooms in integrated project delivery projects. And I read it, and I was taken aback, and I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, if you have a good point, I'll listen to you. But I went back, and the point was that people in big rooms email more and text more, and basically throughout whatever their communication systems are, they have more time spent in communicating than they do in actually working. And so his point was, see, IPD teams don't work. They end up having to send more emails, more text, spend more time in meetings. And so it doesn't work. And he was condescendingly bad-mouthing it. And I can just imagine him being this fearful, overly introverted person that just wants to sit in his office and doesn't enjoy being with people, this bad leader of the past. Introverted people aren't bad. People that are introverted and fearful and use that as an excuse are not doing the right thing. But I was thinking about it. Like, if you are on an IPD project and you're emailing and communicating through text more, great. If you're texting more, great. If you're sharing more information, even if it has to be in meetings, great. Like, that's the purpose. It's about what people don't understand in an IPD environment. It's about the throughput of, and go ahead and let's do a little drum roll. I'm doing a drum roll on my desk. Communication. It's about the throughput of communication. It's not about the throughput of your individual siloed work, which is going to end up being more waste because other people aren't heading in the same direction. So if on an IPD project you email more and you text more and you communicate more, that was the point, team. That was the point, everybody, because the throughput of communication, which it results in better plans, better details, better planning, better budgets, better quality, better safety, better information getting to our field workers to build the project faster. That was the point. So IPD works. And that, I wish I could bring up that. I don't know if there's any repercussions for that. If I could find that post, I would write, I've never done this before, but I would write a lengthy response on how stupid that post was. Because communication is key. We need more and more and more communication. So right now, if you double it, it's not enough. If you quadruple the amount that you communicate, it's not enough. If you multiply it by 7, you're getting close. So right now, here's my challenge as we go into the rest of this podcast is that if you're a project manager, a director, a superintendent, anyone, a foreman, you need to multiply the amount of times that you communicate by 7. You need to get that going. You have to tell people 7 times before they'll get there. And most of the times when there isn't a functional team and it's more like a working group, or it's more like a pseudo team, or even a committee, somebody asked me on the podcast right now, like, Jason, what is the number one problem? Oh, thank you for asking. It's that they're not communicating because they don't trust each other, because they're not a team, period. End of story. That's where it is. And most of the time you'll find a stodgy superintendent that has the plan in his or her head, and they're not communicating well to anybody, and they love the importance that they get from being the only person that knows the plan, and that they're needed throughout the day to fight fires, point fingers, and talk to people. And so when teams need to be better, the communication needs to increase. In fact, I had a little story I was going to tell you later on in the outline, but I'll tell you right now. I've been on projects where there have been massive problems, and to turn the team around, we used a communication thermometer. In fact, on one of them, we had some quality problems where we had to remove some large concrete components. And the crews weren't talking, the foremen weren't talking, the project team wasn't out there talking together for the quality problems. They weren't productively paranoid. They weren't focused on communication. And so we did a thermometer. And I went out in front of the entire group and I'm like, okay, everyone, this is the problem. There were 7 people that knew that the concrete during placing that wall or that footing or whatever was wrong. They didn't speak up. And that's because we're not a team right now. And we need to get better because we're about to spend 60 grand ripping that out, and we have to recover it now on the schedule. And so I draw a thermometer, and it's a rallying cry for the team, and I'll draw it, and they're really surprised, and I'll do like 20%. Right now we're communicating at 20%. We need to get this thermometer as a team up as quickly as we possibly can. And we work towards that. And I teach them that it's about building trust. It's about coming together. It's about having a safe environment. People don't communicate because they don't have a safe environment, because they're not a team and they haven't gone through the 5 behaviors or avoided the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And when we go through that thermometer and it rises and it rises and it rises and it rises, then the team begins to perform in remarkable ways. Because communication is essentially the spiritual form of the action that the team is about to take, and actions bring results. So teams thrive on communication. Communication is the trigger for action, and we need to understand that at our core. So right now, I want you to do a self-evaluation. Is your team communicating enough? Yes or no? Do you communicate important points 7 times? Do you communicate things to other people when it's a hard thing to say, instead of just going home and telling your spouse or your dog or your fish? Do you have the courage? Are you brave enough? And how are you actively telling people every time there's something that they need to hear by way of feedback for improvement or healthy conflict? Yes or no? Is your team communicating frequently when they have a problem? Meaning if something happens, a safety incident in the field or something like that, does everybody immediately know and swarm in? If the answer is no to any of those, then there's so much more that can be done, and we need to embrace this concept of communication. You have to know that it is needed. Now, let's go ahead and get into the other part of this podcast, which is what's going to make this remarkable. I'm going to signpost this for you, that people don't communicate. And I was just finishing the editing on some sections for my Takt book last night. And I just have to say that CPM helps superintendents to not communicate, because it's hidden in the schedule. Nobody can see it. It's not visual. Nobody knows the plan. So it's in the super's head. And if the super doesn't know last planner techniques or visual communication systems, then it's only going to get worse. And so I just want to say that when you go to a project, and actually this kind of ties into where I was going to head with the podcast. I was going to talk about what a project should look like. So let me do that for just a second here. I'm a visual person, so I can walk through any place that I've ever been, and I can visually look at that scenario. And so I'm going to take you through the research laboratory visually just here for a brief moment. When you come up on the project site, and I'm not exaggerating this, and I'm not bragging, I am on this podcast this morning instead of doing things that I want to do to help you. So I'm not bragging. Please don't take it that way. I'm just saying this is what a project should look like. As I'm coming up, on this project on the research laboratory, I remember, and I won't say that again, but I just want you to know these are from memories. The curbs and the gutters are all swept. There's a street sweeper that goes through there frequently, and there aren't any messes. The traffic control is all brand new and pristine because the project team makes the traffic control company replace signs that are damaged. All of the vertical panels are the lines, the stripes are heading in the same way, and all sandbags are new. And if there's one that busts open because somebody hit it, it will be replaced that morning. When you go to the job site, the fence, all of the fence panels are level. All of the fence posts are cut off evenly at the top. They're all even. The fence screen is on the inside in case of, monsoons or weather blowing it out into the street. That won't happen. It's on the inside, and it's all nicely buttoned up without holes. It's not scraggly, if that's even a word. And outside the fence where there are sidewalks, there are really nicely strung exterior lights. Everywhere on the project, there's wayfinding signage in large, beautiful letters with signage with no graffiti. When you pull up, the parking stalls are clearly identified. They're clearly marked with paint, and they're also numbered with beautiful, meaning they're done with stencils, with beautiful stencils. The trailer is painted. It has skirting. Outside, there are signs for parking, where to go for the office, where are the bathrooms, and there's a nicely built deck, and everything outside for staging and storage is perfectly neat and organized because people have been taught that, and they do that throughout. Outside the project, there aren't leaves and trash and weeds. There are people that come through and they do weed eating, and they do the pre-emergent and post-emergent spray for weeds, for weed killer. And so everything on the outside is nice and pristine. So when you come up to the project site, your first image is that this is a place where you want to be. You go in the trailer, and when you open the door, not only are there nice smells when you go inside, but there's light music playing on the inside with a team that's a little bit chattery and just a good positive feeling. You go in, and there's a project administrator that is welcoming, that helps you to know where you're going. You look to the right, there's a beautiful kitchen, and I do mean that, and it's clean all the time with food and with snacks. You look to the left, there's a conference room, restrooms, and signage, and a nice big whiteboard plan table underneath the what do they call that? The project dashboard, where you can reference the plans or find out any information from the dashboard. Everything inside the project site inside the project trailer rather, has elevated desks with plan table chairs, so people can either sit high or stand behind their desks to be effective. The carpet is nicely vacuumed. You can tell that it's cleaned all the time. You walk in farther, there are lean signs, the 14 principles of the Toyota Way, hanging from the ceiling. To the left, there are trade partners and their desks, and those are organized too, but they have a different style. All of the desks are symmetrical, and you walk in, and the team is sitting in an open office environment with smiles and collaborating. There's a war room with planning boards on rollers, with kind of like a little war table at the end, nice, neat, organized. And there's Legos and clay and markers and all kinds of things that the team, and popsicle sticks that the team uses to model and to visually communicate. Then you look to the right, and there's this huge wall with funny pictures from the job, family pictures, kid pictures, pictures of people eating crab legs. And you realize that that's their family wall, where everybody remembers these key happy moments in the project site. You go to somebody's desk, they're welcoming and they're open. You go through the other side of the trailer, and you go into a lunchroom with microwaves and with desks, not desks, tables, with condiments and chips and salsa and fridges and places for the workers to put their lunch boxes and their personal items. And you realize through the signage there how much the team respects these workers, and this place is clean as well. And it appears as if the workers keep the place clean. You go out and you're on the deck and you see the project, and there's this huge sign that says the best indicator of a project's success or health and stability is cleanliness, organization, and the right sizing of inventory buffers. Build it right, plan it first, build it right, finish as you go. It's this huge 25-foot long banner, 5 foot tall. It's a rally cry, and you wonder if people really build that, this should be remarkable. Then you look to the left and to the right, and the gates, the fences, everything is in pristine condition. You go to the right to a sign where it says worker bathrooms. These bathrooms are for you. You are our most important asset. Please keep them clean and do one thing to keep them clean. You walk in, it smells like a bathroom, but there's Febreze scented candles and things like that that make it tolerable. You go in and it's well lit. There's lighting everywhere and there's white epoxy paint everywhere. You go into a stall, there's lean signage, Chuck Norris jokes, a plunger, a toilet brush, cleaning supplies, and a clean toilet, and a floor that's clean, and no graffiti on white walls. And you're like, oh my gosh, could this be real? You walk out, you wash your hands, there's trash cans right next to it, and you go outside and you realize that you were listening to music and that there were scented candles in the bathroom. You go out to the project site and you enter the entrance, and there's signage and there's traffic control protection to get cars to stop as you cross the street. And you go into the site and there isn't a single piece of trash anywhere. The entrance is perfectly and pristinely clean. And you walk around the hoist because you want to go up the hoist because you don't want to walk up the stairs. And the dumpster has nothing around it. And the actual deck is well organized with lanyards and with removable handrail. And there's a sign there on how people should interact with the hoist and to deliver things. And the hoist operator is welcoming and inviting, and he's working off of a schedule. And he prioritizes the moving of deliveries. And finally, you go onto the floors and you walk on the floors and it looks like a manufacturing plant. It doesn't look like a construction site. It's clean everywhere and people are happy and they're joking and they love being there, and they're all wearing their PPE. So that probably took longer than you wanted it to take, but that is what a project should look like, with great visual communication, where there's signage everywhere, the plan is everywhere, the huddle everywhere has visual communication. There's huddle boards, lean boards on every floor telling people where to go. There's wayfinding. There's markers on the floor for material access ways, the whole nine. It's beautiful, pristine, and clean. I want to say that people that give, let's get back to the podcast. I want to say that people that give are givers, meaning people that give their communication. Givers gain and takers lose. So if you are not communicating, you are a taker. And if you are communicating, then you are a giver. And I want to be clear about a couple of concepts, because the key here is that if a project team doesn't have visual communication, audible communication, and kinesthetic communication where people can interact with their spaces, then we're not being successful and we're taking instead of giving. So I want to communicate a couple of key principles. The mind thinks 6 times faster than we speak. Therefore, information is received so fast that the mind reacts with a thought before the message is communicated. And so I want you to realize that you have to keep people visibly, audibly, and kinesthetically engaged whenever possible. And we did a podcast just a little bit ago about effective listening. You have to rein that in to effectively listen, but you also have to realize that the hundreds of workers you're talking to have the same problem. So you're going to have to go back to my quote about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. You can do anything if you have enthusiasm. You need to make it audibly interesting, visually interesting. You need to have things with which the workers can interact in order for them to focus and to hear what you're saying and to really connect with the information. Okay? So you need to build rapport. And this is one of the main reasons that I advocate and will assert that a project will never be as successful as it can be if you don't have morning worker huddles with the entire project team. 80% of terminations of relationships come from in business and personal because of an ability to get along, an ability to follow direction, and an ability to delegate. So that happens when we don't meet and create a social group with the entire project team. Because when we're out there with all workers every morning, teaching, communicating, asking, listening, directing, reminding, and basically explaining how to interact safely every day, we are getting along with them, we are creating a social group, and we are allowing them to clearly follow direction, and we are effectively delegating. We are building rapport. Rapport is a state in which a person is most responsive to us. Rapport is the first and most essential step in communication. Without rapport, no technique in communication can work to produce the results we want. Rapport is generally established on an unconscious level. This is based on our knowledge of how we communicate. 50% of it is body language, 43% of it is through our voice, and 7% is through our words. However, you can consciously establish rapport through some scientific techniques, which we're going to talk about today. And what I want to point out is that with your project team, you have to build this rapport. With the workers on site, you have to build this rapport. With the foreman on site, you have to build this rapport. With the owners on site, you have to build this rapport. Otherwise, you're not effectively communicating. And I'm bothered by how many times people ignore the morning worker huddles when it is absolute magic if you do it right and use it to establish rapport and build a social group and a culture with the workers that are executing everything that you've planned. And so again, it has to be visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So here's some techniques, whether you're doing this with your project team or with your owner or with your workers, on how to establish rapport. You do it by matching and mirroring the person in all three areas of body language, voice, and words, by pacing and leading the communication. So matching is where you duplicate the behavior of someone else. Mirroring is where you match the rhythm of a person's movement with a different type of movement. Where your pace is when you follow their lead. Once rapport is established, the person will begin to follow your movements. So if a worker in a worker huddle said passionately, "Hey, I'm upset about the bathrooms," then you're like, "Hey, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to get that fixed today." If somebody raises their hand timidly and it's like, I was afraid to bring this up, but I think we could do this. Then you respond, mirroring what they're doing, and you say, we can take care of that right away, 100%. When you act like somebody, when you match, mirror, and pace, then you're creating rapport and you're telling them that you're paying attention and you're telling them that it's a safe place, if it in fact is a safe place. By discovering how other persons perceive information, you can learn to communicate more effectively to achieve the results you want. And here's what I want to tell you. Most of your people are visual. So there are three ways we process information. We see, hear, and feel. 38% of people see, 28% of people hear, 34% of people feel. It's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Visual people primarily use their eyes to perceive the world and trust the images they see as a basis for decisions. Auditory people primarily use their ears to perceive the world and who depend on spoken words for the information that determines their behavior. Kinesthetic people feel their way through their experiences. They use their feelings to make their life decisions. And so again, are we communicating in a way that everybody can see, hear, and feel? And so what I'm inviting you to do is to stop the siloed destructive behavior of only having one person know the schedule. The siloed destructive behavior of only one person know what's going on with the owner. The siloed and destructive behavior of never communicating who you are and what your goals are. The silent destructive behavior of never talking to your workers effectively. The silent destructive behavior of not repeating something 7 times. The silent destructive behavior of not collaborating with your trade partners, your trade foreman, your trade superintendents. These are all destructive behaviors and they have to stop. The key is, for everything that's important on the job, has it been communicated visually, audibly, and with feeling, and in a way that they can practice and interact with it, right? So if we take an example here, right, for let's say the overall project schedule. Is that project schedule in all of my conference rooms on a Takt plan? Is my Takt plan in the huddle area? Does every person on the job site have that Takt plan? Have I, with the workers and in every meeting, communicated what it means? Have I communicated the end date, December 6, 2017, December 6, 2017, over and over and over? Have I communicated over and over and over the the next intermediate milestones? Have I repeated it 7 times? Have I talked about the importance of the schedule and the approach of the project team in different meetings, and especially with foremen and with workers 7 times? Have I put these at the hoist and in visual lean boards? Have I given them little cue cards and checks? Have I given them barbecues and other things that will reinforce, hey, we're doing this because we reached our next milestone? Have I communicated everything in these different ways? And so the key is that we do this, that we increase what I call our communication thermometer from 10, 5, 10, 20%. And we've made sure that everybody on the project knows what's going on. Because again, what is one of my favorite sayings? If I asked you guys, you could probably immediately know and repeat what one of my favorite sayings is. And that is that we need to see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. See as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. See as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. Total participation. And we do that through communication. And communication happens with trust. And trust happens with proximity. And proximity happens in huddles and in worker huddles. And when we have these interaction spaces and in integrated project delivery environments and in big rooms. Do you see the tie? So if we go backwards, if we don't have big rooms, huddles, integrated project delivery, then we don't have proximity. And if we don't have proximity, then we don't have culture. If we don't have culture, we don't have trust. And if we don't have trust, we don't have communication. And if we don't have communication, then everybody's headed in a different direction and nobody is performing. I'm going to read you a quote here to close this out. Those who do not have power over the story that dominates their lives, power to retell it, to rethink it, deconstruct it, joke about it, and change it as times change, truly are powerless because they cannot think new thoughts. Let me change that. Let me change that for a specific project. Those leaders who do not have the power over the story of their project, the power to retell it, to rethink it, to deconstruct it, to joke about it, and to change it as times changed, truly are powerless because they cannot perform effectively anywhere because the team does not see as a group, know as a group, and act as a group. That's the key. Communication will always be the key for us. When communication increases on a project site, we start to win. When communication starts to happen with a functional group, we start to win. When everybody knows together, we start to win. And so we need to use all styles of communication. The plan can't be in anybody's single head. We cannot disconnect between field and office. We cannot be siloed as individuals. We cannot fail to communicate. We cannot fail to loop in the team and widen our circle. We need to create a culture. We need to create a culture that incentivizes communication and that de-incentivizes a siloed, non-transparent thinking. And because the current condition right now, and I've said it before, is that we're just not communicating enough, which means that we're not a team, we're not performing. If we can get that communication thermometer up to 100%, then our team can be at 100%. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. This is the way. If you're going to do anything to improve your job site, you will improve communication. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.